Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Sir Andri Purwanto and my friends. We are from the third group. We'll present our presentation about culture ideologies. The first presenter is myself, Dewi Maryati, and my friend, Devia Priska F, and then Lidya Carolina Sibagarian. Next slide. Slide 1. Discourse analysis examines patterns of language across texts and consider the relationship between language and the social and cultural context in which it is used. Discourse analysis also consider the ways that the use of language present different views of the world and different understandings. It examines how the use of language is influenced by relationship between participants as well as the effects of the use of language has upon social identities and relations. It also considered how views of the world and identities are constructed through the use of discourse. Here, we see that discourse analysis is not restricted to what is above the sentence or even to an individual text, as text analysis would be, but it is an inherent and dynamic feature of the roles played by the participants and of the worldviews in the vocabulary of some ideologies and identities that underpin or are constructed by them. The most prominent linguistic theoretical foundation has been provided by systematic functional linguistics as et Halliday and Matthieson, which has heavily influenced critical discourse analysis, has been dominant also within applied translation studies. Next. Slide 2. SFL provides a readily applicable and well-known linguistic toolkit for its investigation in the form of register analysis based on three variables associated with simultaneous strings of meanings. Next slide, please. Slide 3. The Hallidayan model of register analysis used the term context of culture or the extralinguistic cultural environment in which the text is produced and where it operates. The next level down is discourse, which is enacted by conventionalist genres of which texts are individual example. Instantiation, the text is comprised of a specific register in a context of situation in which meaning is exchanged between participants. The three strains of meaning discourse semantics are expressed by specific lexical and grammatical choice. These choices are for course also meaningful in the process of translation. They need to be identified, interpreted, and translated in an appropriate way with due consideration given to language-specific difference and gender conventions. As a method of analysis, discourse analysis is holistic, dealing with entire constituents of an act of communication. It is a method that studies a discourse in its context of culture, context of situation, its structure, and individual constitution. It provides a model for uncovering patterns of choice and relating them to specific concern and context in which the translator works. And then next slide, Devia.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Within the overarching classification of discourse and translation, a wide range of themes and sub-themes are covered in this published research, adapting theme and message, three levels of context, that is communicative, pragmatic, and semiotic, and expanding it to include the extralinguistic context of culture and specific sub-themes. Zhang et AI suggests the following categorization. Next slide. Here is the categorization of research in discourse analysis and translation. There are first level category, second level category, and third level category. Next slide. Although sometimes overlapping and despite publications being categorized according to their main focus only, such divisions into levels and subthemes provide a useful taxonomy for locating and comparing research in this field. There are some evidence difference in trends between in the international and Chinese publications. Thus, very prominent in the international journals are extralinguistic themes of power and ideology and the analysis of the context of translations, as well as genre and register analysis. In the Chinese journals, it is the linguistics, like pragmatic textual, level of cohesion and coherence that receive most attention. In general, of the three discourse semantic metafunctions that comprise register analysis, it seems to be the textual metafunctions, realized through the thematic structure and cohesion patterns, that has been the subject of most research in both sources, particularly the Chinese journals, with their interest in the texture of translated text. Also worthy of note are new themes that have begun to be treated in the international journals, semiotics, the discourse role of paratext in translation, and reflecting the growth of digital media multimodality. Interestingly, the most frequently analyzed text types over the course of this period are still literary texts, although there is a growing prominence towards the analysis of audiovisual translation, news translation, and political translation in the international journals and news translation, advertisement translation, and public notice translation in the Chinese journals. This difference may be indicative of a particular preoccupation with genre and text type, and they correspond to some degree to the prominent themes noted above. Next slide. A study of monographs and edited volumes published in English and Chinese over the same period reveals a slightly different picture. 39 books published in English by 18 international publishers were identified, numbers which since 2000 have remained relatively steady over each 5-year period of the survey. The period have remained the period from 2000 to 2010 witnessed a step increase in the number of relevant volumes published in China, which suggests certain interest in the discourse approach to translation studies from Chinese scholars. By their nature, monographs can deal with a wide range of text types and themes, and the most common themes in both English language international and Chinese publications relate to the general context and to genre and register analysis. Some trends noted in the published articles are reinforced, namely that issues of power and ideology in translation, popular in international English language, are almost completely absent from Chinese publications, which again show a more neutral preference for the study of cohesions, coherence, and textuality. The next slide will be presented by Lidya Carolina.
Okay. While the studies above suggest the general tendency that translators try to retain the pattern of thematic progression of the source text, other studies how that thematic progression pattern in the translated text differ. Liu and Yang analyze pattern of thematic progression in English argumentative essay and title of studies and 11 translation of it into Chinese and found that the English text has a particular tendency to favor the use of the T2R1 type theme of clause to pick up from rim of clause 1, while the translation preferred the T2 T1 type theme of clause 2 pick up from theme of clause 1, reflecting linguistic resource and means of textual cohesion in Chinese. In a sense, it is not surprising that many studies reported high similarity ratio of matching themes between the source and translated text, especially in language pairs that have common typological and cultural similarities for many literal translation should give way other methods of translation only when it is incapable. But what about the case of mismatching themes? In fact, it is reported that target reader responded substantially differently to version of a short translation, with the only difference being theme choices in a few clauses. Profrick 2004 found that simple linear thematic progression more common in translation than in their source text. Kim and Huang 2012 observed some variation in the translation of marked topical themes. However, if we hope to explain translation features or choices more systematically in order to provide solid ground on which we can postulate a translation theory or apply it for practical purposes such as training, more needs to be done to build on existing results and to validate findings with different set of data. To be able to build knowledge in translation studies in such a constructive way, theoretical and methodological rigor is a crucial condition, without which we cannot make any legitimate claims that will move us forward. We will address this issue in the next section.
Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this material topic is useful for you class. And then thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.